Okay, 15 says determine the following limits if possible using any relevant technique. So I always think the easiest way to do this is by either looking at the graph or looking at the table. So that's what we're going to do. So part A, we're going to put that in our calculator. So I have, now when it says sine squared 2t, that means this whole thing is squared. So I'm going to put parentheses sine 2x, close my parentheses, squared, over 9x squared. And even though they use t's in the problem, we use x's when we put it in here. And I'm going to look at the graph first, and I want to know where are my y values going as x approaches 0. Well, it's really hard to see, okay? So since he says you must explain your reasoning in order to receive credit, I would choose two numbers really close to 0 on the left, two numbers really close to the 0 on the right, and then make the table like we did in those first few problems. So on the left of 0, I'm going to put negative 0.001 and negative 0.0001. And then from the right, I would put 0.01 and 0.001. So I would make your XY chart like we did, write down these Y values, and then the total limit is 0.444. And then part B, same thing, Y equals the square root of x minus 3 times 2 raised to the sine of 5 divided by x minus 3. And I'm going to look at the graph. This time I want to know what's happening. I must have messed up whenever I put this in. Oh, x minus 3, close parentheses. Okay, so I want to know what's happening this as x approaches 3 from the right-hand side. Well, it's kind of hard to tell. So again, I'm going to go to my table, and I'm going to enter in 4 numbers, because that's what he asked for before. 3 numbers to the right of 3. So to the right of 3 would be 3.1, 3.01, 3.001, and 3.0001. Okay, so do you see the closer I get, I'm going to do another one, 0.3000001. Really, really close. Okay, do you see that as and even if I put 3 in here, it's going to give me an error message. But whoops, 3.0000, I remember really, really, really close to 0, to 3. Do you see that these are getting smaller and smaller? And this means 6.8, and then move my decimal point to the left 6 places. So you see it's getting really, really close to 0. And if I look at the graph, as x approaches 3 from the right, my graph is getting closer and closer to 0. So this one is going to be 0. On part C, y equals, I'm going to hit my fraction button, sine x over 1 minus cosine x. Okay, and hit my graph. I want to know what this is doing when I get closer and closer to pi. Well, we know that pi is 3.14. So I'm going to go to my table, and 3.14, so 3.13 is really close to that. That's coming in from the left, 3.011. And then what if I had 3.14 coming in from the right? 3.15 is close to that. So you see that this is a positive number and this is a negative number. Let's look at our graph. Coming in from the left, and let me change my window. I'm going to go from 0, we'll go to 2 pi. That way I'll know where pi is. It's right in the middle. -5 to 5. So if I go from 0 to 2 pi, right here in the middle, that was my 0, oh, 0 to 2 pi. So this is 0, this is 2 pi, so right in the middle right here, that's going to be pi. So you see that it's approaching 0. My y values from the left and from the right are approaching 0. So c is 0. D, I have x squared cosine of pi over x. Okay, I'm going to look at the graph. I want to know where my y values as x gets closer and closer to 0. So I should have changed my window. But I'm going to go ahead and go to the table. And I'm going to choose numbers to the left of 0. So -0.001 and -0.0001. That's from the left. From the right would be 0.001 and 0.0001. Okay, and let's go ahead and look as x approaches 0. Okay, so let's go to our table. Let me make sure I put that in right. X squared cosine pi. All right. Oops. So do you see 1 to the -6, 1 to the -8? Okay, and this is in scientific notation, so I'm taking my decimal and moving it to the left 6 places, 8 places. So you see they're getting closer and closer to 0. So this one is also 0. And then the last one, y equals arc tangent, so that means second tan, 4 theta or 4x. I'm going to go ahead and my graph. They want to know as theta approaches negative infinity, so the left-hand side of my graph, what are my y values doing? So I'm going to go to my table and I'm going to plug in some really small numbers like -1,000, -10,000, -100,000, and -1,000,000. So you see that these are getting closer and closer to this number, -1.571. So -1.571. And when it says you must explain your reasoning, I would just draw that chart out like we did in problems 1 and 2. All right, I think I'm going to stop right there and do a separate video.